Hello, I'm Saris, and today is several matches, and the first is Kawa and Saris, which is me and my teammate, versus Nug and Salos. So we were practicing for the tournament in this match, and it's teams. Okay, so the interesting thing here is it's two missile barges versus my fast wall and Kawa's orbital wall. And it's kind of interesting because Kawa can dodge or avoid missiles if he's taking evasive maneuvers, but he cannot fire back if he's fighting. And I can presumably shoot missiles down, but only if they're coming from my front, and only if there's a small enough amount of them. So I am pretty sure that both of us can win a 1v1. The issue is that there's a 2v2, and missiles are very good at being retargeted. So in this match, Kawa and me were talking at all times about who was targeting who. Right there, I would have mentioned that Kawa was being targeted by my opponent, which was Nug, I think. It's the black missile barge. And now we're switching targets because Kawa can move faster and the other ship is stuck. So now Kawa is trying to destroy the missile launchers, while that ship is stuck there. Though he's taken a lot of damage and it's not as effective. And my job is to just try and distract and give Kawa time, because I can't actually kill very quickly. I have to go through the front armor and the front shields with my ship. I do manage, of course, to get through the a missile arrangement, which makes it so that the rest of the fight's going to be easier, but Kawa did not do as much damage as was hoped, and took a lot of damage himself. So our health bars are about even. I think that we're in a little bit of a worse position because they just have a little bit less firepower, whereas we have lost a sixth of our firepower because a third of my ally is gone. Okay, so now this is a rough position because I am being pinned to the asteroid and I cannot use my point defense to shoot at the missiles. And I am just going to continue taking damage because I can't get off, and Nug, expert obnoxious pilot as always, is keeping me pinned there knowing this, and is dealing a lot of damage. Kawa, coming to my rescue, is starting to fire at the back sections since I was requesting assistance, and Nug was very indisposed, very trapped. So now Nug probably won't be able to get Kawa off of him, and is continuing to take damage. So I did take a lot of damage, we're at half health now effectively, but we did manage to kill one of the players, kind of. And now I'm going to focus on removing the missile modules because they're still firing, they're still a threat even if they're not being aimed. And Kawa is just going to have his ship die there. That's fine, he's very clearly busy killing the other one. Well done on his part. So now it's kind of a bad situation for them because the only living part is that missile segment at the very top that has no weapons. So I am taking the safe route. I'm killing the remaining missile modules so that there's nothing to fire at us still, even though you could presumably go for the kill and win the match faster. So Kawa is doing exactly that. I'm going to continue screening for the missiles, because if there's no way for them to fire back at us, there's no way for us to lose. We could potentially still fail this. Now Kawa is going for the control room. I'm almost done. I'm going to come down soon and start flanking so that they can't last this long. I don't think there's really any way to win this. I think Nug was just stalling for time, because why not? Even though you can see in the bottom right of the screen the minimap, the Ring of Death is nowhere nearby, and we will be killing him, firing at him the entire time. So that's about it. I think it's over. And now the second match. So Kawa had to go, and we were just doing a free-for-all match, because why not? And Saracen's at top versus Nug and Salos versus Polar and Ninja. So it's a free-for-all, anybody can fire at anybody. And so the top group, Team 2 went to the center. And Salos was chasing me, I think, but he exposed himself, and forgetting this is a free-for-all or something, is about to die. And he dies. Yes, you should not turn your back to a railfan under any circumstances ever. Whatever the reason would be, it's always worse to be doing that. Okay, Polar tries to throw some nukes at Nug, but he dodges them because they weren't aimed, or they were aimed and Nug accounted for them. I am chasing. I was trying to make my way all the way around to Ninja because I'm piloting the blue pages because I wanted to practice using my teammate ship because you're allowed to. in the tournament, of course. And I'm making my way down, and boom, another shot from behind by Zip-Zap. Because you see, you just gotta pay attention to the railfans. It's like they're going to kill you otherwise. That's another reactor under Zip-Zap Top's belt. Trying to take more shots. Nug takes a glancing blow from the nukes while trying to punish Polar for his indecency. And then another railfan ball. I didn't do much. I pushed Nug into the rock, and I'm trying to get him. Yeah, I was trying to get Zip-Zap Top another punish with the railfan, and it is delivered deliciously. And Polar is trying to make his way back to the pond. Ninja is trying to shoot at anybody he can. Zip-Zap Top scratches up Polar's paint on the front. I am in danger of being hit by the nukes, so I try to dodge them to great success. And then I'm trying to kill Polar because he deigned to fire at me, and he's about to take another shot from Zip-Zap. Really the MVP here, killing everyone he can. In the meantime, I take down Ninja because Polar has a lot of rear armor for one reason or another. I think Nug is like completely dead and can no longer move. No, he's not dead because Team 2 still has some HP, as you can see. So I'm coming to go help my teammate because clearly he's the more important part, so I'm trying to get to him as fast as possible. The excessive armor on Zip-Zap is making it so he took no damage in the meantime. Basically, Nug can do nothing to defend himself, so now I'm pushing him away. He's dead now for sure. Team 2 is out of it. And the only remaining ships are both of Team 1's, so me and Zip-Zap versus Polar's nuke ship. And there's a tiny drone there, but who cares? It's unimportant. And I'm trying to move Nug's corpse further and further away so it can no longer harm my teammate with missiles. And trying to move it away. And that railfan volley almost kills Paul. It almost wins the match, but not quite. And I need rotating as hard as I can and trying to avoid the nukes. Didn't make it, and I split the section off, but that's actually fortunate because I was stuck. And now I am free to go and help kill Polar, which cannot really move. He lost too much. He lost his right reactor, which means his thrusters are now imbalanced. So if he fires like his left thrusters, he'll just turn, and that's not ideal. So now I destroy the reactor. Now he's basically dead in the water, almost completely. And now I'm firing at his last two controllers. My left half is firing at his left controller and his right. My right half is firing at his right controller. And I think Zip-Zap Top was the MVP there. He killed like 3 players of the 6. Or at least severely damaged basically all of them. So very well done on his part. And it's almost over. And there we go. For the next match, we have Game Night versus Ceres. We did a lot of sparring that day, so expect to see him a lot more. And this is typically not a great matchup for the Railfan, because you see the opponent can just get really close and make it so it's hard to fan, and under different circumstances can just ram you. Like, he has a lot of turning rotation, so I choose to not ram him yet. But it's very difficult to get through the large shields, it's very difficult to get through the armor, and Railfans flourish when they can pick out like opponent weaknesses and make it so that they take damage before like they even get to you. And clearly I've effectively taken no damage thus far. Like, I have like a massive hole in my front, but that doesn't do anything to weaken me effectively. Especially against this ship, when I can just like turn and my shields regenerate and suddenly it's fine. Whereas he is just losing all of his armor, which is a huge problem, because as soon as I start like dealing damage, it's like catastrophic compounding failure. And if I can ram him and prevent him from turning, then the shields start breaking. And even though he's rotating to protect the shields, he's just losing armor in the meantime, which kind of not good, kind of bad for him. And once he loses shield, it's like very bad because they were all covering each other. My 2 disruptors that are very hard to notice at times are killing everything, or turning the shields off, and then the reactors kind of chain a little bit. So his chances are pretty low. I don't think 2 rails can get through 3 large shields and 2 small shields, they're both combined. And the rest of the reactors kind of go, they didn't chain at the very least, but there that one goes. And Game Night appears to be dead. So now I make my way over to the other opponent, a swarm of ships by random guy, speeding up so that we can actually get there in a reasonable time frame. And swarms are interesting, not very rarely seen. They're very rarely seen, is what I'm saying. And they're not great, but they can be dangerous, especially with the new addition of nukes. Because nukes from like all angles can be very unfortunate. So what I am doing is I am making sure to stay on the outside of the swarm, not letting their numbers advantage become relevant because they only like 2 are attacking at a given time, which you always want to be doing. You don't want to like go in the center of a swarm and then have them attack you from all angles. That's like where they're best. You want to be hiding or pushing your way around the edges, like separating them off. That way, you never have them flanking you and you can always mitigate the numbers advantage. So as you can see, I'm gonna like be hiding, like fleeing, make it so that only 1 or 2 is fighting me at once. And as you can see, this is where swarms are kind of bad, because each individual one has super low defenses. They rely on numbers to survive, which isn't great because it means like you take a ton of damage at all times. And the other weakness is that they can't really get through your opponent's front or even typically side armor, because their damage concentration is so much lower. I rotate there to catch the nuke on one of my armor spikes so that it doesn't deal damage and destroy thrusters. I'm chasing that one away. They're all chasing me, and you know, as long as they stay away, because you know I'm faster, which makes sense, I promise. They cannot get behind me, and it's just kind of a bad situation overall. And you would probably want to like make a concave around my ship so that it can't actually fight any of them, but they're all getting closer, so you can like actually engage all of them at once. Because if you just trickle them in, then my defenses can just recharge and ignore them. Like, there is a hole in my front, and presumably, potentially, you could get like a few nukes through and then kill me. But the issue is like only 2 of them are firing at once, and my shields can just regenerate by the time the next one gets there. The cannons are just kind of never going to get through. The railguns also have the same issue. And he's running out of ships. I think there's only 3 left. No, there's 4 left. Now 3. And it's a little bit hopeless, gonna be honest. It was a good swarm, was a good attempt, but unfortunately I don't know. Some might say I played dirty by not letting them flank me, but okay, now for our next match. It is me against Game Night, as previously mentioned, and I was testing a ship I'm very happy about. So it is the Eidolon, of course, but with a difference. It has large shields instead of disruptors. And you see, this was a great idea, because railguns suck against large shields. And you see, disruptors don't do anything, so I could take them off basically without any issue. I mean, like, look at how much armor that opponent ship has. Like, disruptors were gonna be maybe helpful, but not nearly as much as the large shields. And you'll see that they just keep tanking shots. Like, it doesn't matter. I haven't taken any damage thus far, which is kind of interesting because typically walls do really badly against railfans. It's like railfans are like the ideal counter to walls. But you see, my ship has 6 large shields, and then behind the 2 large shields is 4 small shields. So to get through the shields is very difficult. And it's not helped by the fact that I'm an expert pilot and I'm tilting my ship such that if there's a vulnerable section, I'm putting the other large shields in the way. That's part of the goodness of large shields, is that since they project so far out, you can actually catch shots with them. They're kind of like nets in that fashion. And I'm using my hooks, the hooks on my ship, you can see them, they're made of structure, to bully my opponent, to make it so that they cannot like refire until my shields have regenerated. And I go around the shields anyway, and I just destroy the reactors, and I'm continuing to do so. I have to get the armor out of my way so that I can, continue fire. Almost got the other one, and there we go. Game Night is dead. I took no damage, which is very, well, I think it's very impressive to do that with a wall into a railfan. That's not really supposed to happen. But now I fight Gleaton, which is a name I do not recognize, but, always cool to have new members in the community, and it's always cool to have, new people just in general. So these deck cannons probably not going to be able to deal any damage, unfortunately. I probably should have not kited because I was going to win anyways. It was maybe a little bit unnecessary, but alas, I was very happy with this ship. So I removed their weapons, removed their reactors, those ships are dead. These are mine layers, so they could potentially be an issue. So I rammed them, I rammed one of them anyway, to prevent them from getting away, because if they get behind me and start laying minefields, then I might have an issue. As you can see, that mine, if it had been behind me, would have done a lot of damage. So I'm shooting at the remaining mine launcher on that other ship. Now that it's gone, I'm going to continue focusing on this one and kill it. Make sure it can't move, it has no weapons anymore, so it won't be a distraction later. And then past that, I'm going to go and kill the railgun ship that Gleaton has that was not fast enough to really get to me as the other ships were. As you can see, it's very far away. So I'm going to go on a little trip to the edge of the map. All the way over there. Worth mentioning that the tournament is on the 25th and 26th at 7 PM UTC. It is a team tournament. It's possible to sign up. You can sign up whenever you want, up to an hour before the tournament starts. I've seen people sign up on the day of. It's still allowed, and you are still encouraged to. So Gleaton tries his best to get through, and unfortunately does not even get through the large shields to get to the small shields. And I'm already dealing damage. His next volley might have done it, but he couldn't rotate fast enough, and I was rotating myself to make it so that the large shields were blocking each other. And he does not have enough thrust to get out of this pin, and now I am trying to push him back into the ring of death because I have other opponents I want to kill. And he's at least doing a good job of preventing that. And I'm firing at 3 different sections. I'm removing the railguns, I'm removing the central command centers and the rear command centers. And those all are destroyed, and I believe. Now we're speeding up because I'm going to fight X-Snow next. And it's worth mentioning that you probably don't ever want to be in this matchup as the deck cannon rammer, because it's very difficult to hit avoiders with deck cannons. Like, to the point that it would be better to retreat at all times. Because it's just very difficult. The other thing is, avoiders, since they're so maneuverable, can do this death spiral type thing around an asteroid where you chase them and they fire back and you don't fire back. And even if you do fire back, because they're always moving away, they are technically always dodging by default, and you are always running into their bullets. So if you recognize that pattern, it would be best to start running away from it, and because there's no way to really punish it, there's no way to get out of it except flame, so it's just try and stay away from that. And now X-Snow is running away, trying to gain space, because if I don't pay attention, then he might jump on top of me with his superior forward thrust and kill me. But I am strafing out of the way, making it so that he has to turn, which makes it so he lowers his speed, because he has to redirect. Otherwise he will just continue to drift forward. So he has to slow down to turn, and then overcome his inertia in the given direction to try and ram me, which would be preferable. Here's another reference to how the large shields were more important than disruptors, because even though he has shields, it's getting through the armor is more important. A little bit of flanking, which I was going to engage, but Zenless forfeit. I was looking forward to killing all 4 other players, but well, Zenless had to forfeit because his missiles weren't set to fire at target. Always worth mentioning that if you have missiles, fire at target is superior, so that you don't accidentally shoot at people, because fire at will fire at will, which you don't want, because it's typically not the person you're trying to fight that they end up firing at. Okay, so X-Snow is having a little bit of an issue, because to face me, he wants to be going at me, trying to hit me, but the issue is that I have dug in through his right side, so if he goes head-on at me, then I will strafe to his left and continue firing at the open gap. And if he over-rotates, or rotates at all, such, then I can continue strafing, and now his reactor is vulnerable. Very unfortunate for him. And now he has the strong remaining left section of his front, but I will be trying to bait him into turning, because it's very difficult to not overturn with those ships, especially when you're trying to track an avoider, so that I can, doing another baiting so that he over-rotates again, and then I have clear access to his reactor to fire at it. Now I'm going to be ramming him to see if I can get the hooks stuck, which fortunately do not, but it's mostly fine. See, it's worth noting that even if you were to wait out to the end of the ring of death shrinking, it wouldn't do anything, because I can still fire. Now for the next match, it is me versus Game Knight, as I predicted. And Game Knight is running a very interesting ion kite that strafes instead of kiting. Now this is kind of weird, and probably a place where disruptors might be better, because as you can see, there's a lot of shields on Game Knight's ship. And the thing is that I need to... This is a very difficult matchup for me. I think it's pretty easy for him because he just plays keep away. But I need to always be trading my shields, because I do have enough shields to tank, it's just that not in a single spot. So if I allow him to continue firing at specific spots, then they will be destroyed. As you can clearly see, I lost my 2 central large shields, which is a huge matter. It's very bad that happened. It means that I will permanently be in a worse off position, which, that's just how taking damage works, but the other part is it's very integral to have the shields to tank. I did manage to strip the 3 shields on his left flank though I will not be able to punish them, I don't think, because he's doing far too good of a job playing keep away from that side, and he has done enough damage that I think my central reactor is exposed, which is obviously really bad. It means that I have no more armor or underlying shields, such that if he gets basically any time focusing on it, it will go. So it's becoming worse and worse, and I have to very hugely flank to make it so that my large shields are in the way, to the point that my weapons are going to be having trouble firing past one another. And he is making very good use of his extended range over mine to constantly be pushing me away. And it's very difficult because I have no means to jump on top of him. He's doing a good job paying attention, preventing me from getting close, and it's even making it so that I cannot jockey back and forth and try and like push him, because he knows that he has a little bit of leeway with the range advantage. Weaker pilots might have just like started running as soon as I started chasing them, which allows you to drive them into the ring of death. Now, I was trying to get his reactor because, it's exposed, and if I can get it, his damage output is halved. But, he's still doing a good job. His large shields are doing the same thing as mine. They're catching all of the projectiles that might have been hitting the reactor. And there's the huge issue that if I want to, change sides, with the reactors, then it makes it so that I lose so much speed because I'm focusing on rotating instead of, trying to get close again. So I have to get disengaged again if I want to try and let my shields recharge, because it's just, he pressures them so effectively. And I'm trying to stay as close as possible without being in range so that I can get really close to him. I'm trying to bait him to move forward, because he doesn't have any brakes. His only ways of moving away is strafing. So if he moves towards me, then I get a little bit of advantage. And see, he moved towards me a little bit, so I thought it was go time. And I'm trying to focus on his other side now, because if I can break the shields on that, then suddenly he can't effectively flank. And I lose my central reactor, which is really bad. I damage his reactor. It's almost gone, almost there. He's still doing a really good job of preventing me from hitting it though. And he's turning so that his weapons can fire back in the meantime, even though they are not super well done, because they're all hitting each other in terms of the prisms, which is not good for him. It means his damage output is lowering, but it's it's better to be dealing damage than not dealing damage at all. And I took off 2 of the shields on his left half, which is important because it means that I could presumably take out the reactor because it only has 1 shield left, but I lose the other reactor. This is kind of really bad I lost ship control at this point because I had too many thrusters, I think. No, I just lost it there. And that's what the spin is about. And he disconnected the excess parts, so that was good. And I'm going for the other reactor, almost got it there. And then I was trying to disengage, like very desperate to disengage so that my shields could recharge. I shouldn't have been firing at that because it would have been an excellent mate shield, but you know, then it's just destroyed. And then hiding behind that section, trying to, but then the reactor explodes because of fire, so again, another shield is relieved of me. And he knows exactly what's up, he knows what I'm trying to do, so he's constantly pressuring, he's constantly firing. And it was excellently piloted by him. And my only reprieve, since there's no asteroids anywhere nearby to try and get to, is to go for the reactor. But you see my weapons, I don't have enough weapons to get through the shield, especially not at this range. So he's getting through the armor, getting through the shields, the reactor's taking damage, and I die. Well played by him. Now, it's me versus Slowking. Slowking, the previous tournament winner, scary player, testing a shieldless railfan. And shieldless railfans get the advantage of having more firepower because they don't spend money on shields. But you see, I was capable of tilting, and even though he did get a large shield on my left side, I didn't lose a reactor, which would have been catastrophic. And I did take more damage there because he fired all of his rails instead of fanning, because my shields were down, and he's going to continue doing that because it's the only way he can get damage. He can't, get away from me and try and fan again, because I'm constantly pushing him, and he doesn't have any rear thrust, so he's smart to do this. And I am trying to fire at the base of his ship, in between the reactor and the rest of the stuff, because if I can cut those supply lines, then it makes it so he can't supply his thrusters or railguns. And it's just as good as firing at the reactor, it's just as good as destroying the reactor by half. And I was destroying individual rails because their loaders explode, which is why you should always put armor near them. But the loaders explode, so fires could potentially do that job for me of cutting off the connection. But as you can see, I just blew up an ammo storage, and now his right half can no longer do anything. Like, those rails are not going to be turned online, the operators are all gone, the thrusters are not going to be powered, and now I want to continue destroying the left half, because it's still potentially losable if he fires, if he manages to fire in the right fashion. And I got another explosive storage, which was probably more used, and Slowking, I think, forfeits. Slowking forfeits because there's no way to win that. Okay, so now it's me versus Game Night for the last time. We both have railfans. His uses the large shields, and as previously mentioned, large shields are good against railfans. However, my railfan is built to kill other railfans. You can see all of the front armor and the lack of rear armor, because you don't need rear armor when fighting railfans. And I also have a ton of practice. So I was seeing if I could break through the shields, if I could get through the armor, and Game Night was doing too well of a job blocking that, because if you rotate, then the armor will get in the way, and the shields will have time to regenerate. Because shields, you can pressure them, they're not very good against burst, but that's what the armor is for, is to give you time for more regeneration. So at that point I started going for the sides, because I noticed that due to his thrusters, he had very weak corner armor. And a lot of the time railfans need to put a ton of armor on their corners, otherwise they'll just be shot through. And if you put a ton of corner armor on, then you can use it as a reliable defense. And you can see that's what happens if you don't have enough corner armor. A single shot and it just goes down. Okay, so corner armor is, you want your opponent to be firing at the corner armor, because it's just this huge massive armor that your opponent doesn't want to be shooting through, because even if they get through it, there's just more armor behind it. And it's very rare that you'll have the same exact angle. So it's always better to go through the center of their armor, like I did there. Okay, you see, I cut off the section again because I was trying to, and Slowking was trying to prevent me from doing it to the other side, but by doing so, he made it so I could fire directly at his reactor.